This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. I'm here at Planned Pethood International. Since 2000, they have offered affordable, common sense veterinary medical for your companion animals here locally and really across the globe. I'm joined with Dr. Jeff Young. Thanks so much for joining us, Doctor. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're a graduate locally, 1989, CSU. One of your earlier jobs there was an animal control officer. You've seen firsthand some of the problems, the abuses that happen with animals. Why don't you tell us a little bit how this got started for you?
Well, I think really veterinary medicine changed my life in a lot of ways. When I went into school, I was a hunter and fisherman and all that, and I was taught that animals don't feel pain the same way we do. And then when you get to school, you find out the science says something different, and it doesn't change a lot of people. But then I was also working in animal control, and I started noticing the way people treated their dogs and cats, and pets in general. And I'd always had dogs that were always like part of my family, and it opened my eyes to things and just made me look at the world through a different lens and kind of take a different route than a lot of my classmates.
That is interesting. Dogs and cats in general, as you say. When we're talking about pets, companion animals, those are two words that describe someone that's important to many people. Sure. What does that mean for you when you're looking at pets versus companion animals, or are they all one and the same?
Well, I think, the political correctness is more companion animals versus pets. Having said that, I'm old school, and in the end, it's how you treat those animals. But the human-animal bond is the big thing. And I learned a lot about that outside of school, but when I was in school, and in the end, it can be a gerbil or it can be a turtle. It doesn't matter if that person has a connection to it. An emotional connection. It really means something to that person.
Absolutely. I mean, the cornerstone, really, of your organization is reducing pet overpopulation. Share with us why that has been a passion for you and something you think it's important for people to be educated on.
Well, that's a no-brainer. When in the late 80s and early 90s, we were killing 24 to 26 million dogs and cats a year in this country. Okay? At this point, we're, 30 years later, it's down to more like, depending on who you want to read, anywhere from as low as 2 million up to 6 million, and it may be more like 8 million, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but in that we used to kill so much more, we've come a long ways, and that is through education and the opening of spay-neuter, a lot of spay-neuter clinics, and just more awareness in general of society. If as a veterinarian, if my goal is to help animals, and I became a small animal vet, so my goal is to help dogs and cats more than anything else, because that's what I was really interested in. Well, the best way I could do that is to reduce the population, because back in those days, if you were born, you had a greater chance of dying by being put to sleep than any other reason, which is just an atrocity in my mind.
Absolutely. I mean, you're a proponent of early age neutering. One of the ways you make that possible is through mobile neuter clinics really across the globe, not only educating the doctors but the public at the same time. Why is that important for people to understand that it should take place early on?
Well, the science has been really positive on my side for a long time. There's some pushback recently. There's some different articles, and they all have flaws. And the truth is, we don't necessarily know. What we do know is the largest study ever done involving 2.2 million dogs and 2.2 million dogs. I think it was 460,000 cats. If they were fixed, they live longer. That was the reality of it. I've lectured and done surgical demonstrations and other surgical things, besides just spay neuter, in over 36 countries at this point. And if you're in a developing country where there are dogs everywhere, the age you neuter them in is kind of irrelevant, because half of them, street dogs' average life expectancy is 3.2 years. So even if they were going to have some problems, they're never going to see it anyway. And I don't believe they do. I really do believe all my animals are neutered as soon as I get them. The earlier the better, as far as I'm concerned. And I've always had long-lived animals that do really good. I don't know what the future is going to hold in terms of the true science on that. Because people say, well, what about incontinence? What about this? What about that? But I can say, yeah, but what about pyometras? And what about dogs running off and fighting, dogs more likely to be hit by car, intact male dogs, things like that. And when you're dealing with street dogs, when there's literally thousands of them, you got to get the population down, and the faster you do it, the better off you are.
You have served on the board of a few organizations out there helping them. You've been an advisor on many units across the globe out there. Not only is accessibility important to you, but also affordability. Why is that something that you think it should be provided for everyone?
Well, I mean, I think accessibility and affordability are almost the same thing, in the end. And I know the veterinary profession for years, their theme was, well, if you can't afford it, you shouldn't have it. Well, I can say that about kids. I can say that about a lot of things. Where do you draw that line? I mean, we're humans, and the truth is, we were hunter and gatherers for 90% of the time we were on this planet, and dogs were the first animals we domesticated, and horses came along later, and cats are somewhere in there. But the point is, we always had this bond with nature, and now we live mostly in cities. But our inner being still wants that bond with nature, and a dog is a great way to get that, or a cat, or anything else. So I think as humans we crave that, and I think the science on companion animal, what it can do for people in terms of lowering their blood pressure, make them feel good about life and themselves, give them something to live for, it's overwhelming. And in this day and age, it seems like more and more we kind of separate ourselves in little cliques and stay away from people. And the neighbor down the street, it may be the dog's the only friend they have. And I don't know. I just can't imagine not wanting to help those animals and help those people, and that's what I got into the profession for. And most animals, not necessarily street dogs, but every animal is pretty much connected to humans. We don't have a lot of street dogs running around Denver Metro, so the animals I deal with are connected to humans, So I can say I'm in it for the animals, but in the end, I'm in it for the people too, and I just think they go hand in hand.
Some of these mobile units that you've put together, and they started kind of on a shoestring, yet you've now funded some facilities out there that are state-of-the-art facilities. Is the surgical techniques that you're able to teach others, has it kind of come a long way just in the past couple decades?
Well, it's come a long ways in that I was an incompetent surgeon when I started, and I like to think I'm a little better than that now. So it was a fairly new branch in some ways. And not that we haven't always done some spay neuters, but it really took off. And to do large numbers and large scales, that was coming around in the 80s and 90s. People like Marvin Mackey, just were kind of leaders in the field in that way, and Leo Lieberman. And so, in the end, I can't say the sutures changed that much. I think a lot of the anesthesias have changed that much, but the techniques have gotten more refined, to some degree. When we're in school, you're taught to open from the xiphoid to the pubis, which is a great big huge incision. And now we know we can make it, most spay neuters do a little, tiny incision like that, So that's all positive for the animal, and it's more efficient, and it takes less suture, and you get fast at it. There's less time on the surgery table, so there's a lot of advantages. We've learned a lot in the last 30 years.
You've definitely done your part. You have personally sterilized 160,000 animals out there. Do you enjoy sharing your knowledge with other vets as well as the public?
Well, when I decided to say, okay, the biggest single threat to animals is overpopulation. So how do I address that? Spay, neuter, and education. So you start doing that. Then I realized, okay, and I was naive enough to believe coming out of school that, well, I'll just go out and spay, neuter everything and solve the problem by myself, And then you realize, well, okay, maybe there's a few more animals there than I can get to today, So then it's like, okay, well, how else can I do this? Well, the only way you can really make a difference, and especially on a global level or, even a state level, is to interact with other veterinarians and other people who have the same interests, And that's kind of, I could go anywhere in the world. I could retire right now, never work another day other than just pop around the world working for organizations, volunteering for organizations who will fly me in, and I can stay there for 2 or 3 weeks or 6 weeks and live like a king, and it's really nice, and they treat you like a visiting dignitary, But if I'm not working with somebody, it doesn't matter if I do, 10,000 spays and neuters. It makes a difference in a short run, but in the long run, you got to leave something behind, because once I'm gone, or once I leave there, once I'm dead, what's left? What changes? So my thing has always been about recruiting and getting more and more people involved in the philosophy and a certain way of life. And it's hard. It's in America. We're not that giving. We like to think we are, but the truth is we're not that giving as a nation, and people want to make their living first, where I'm seeing like in places like Mexico, or Chile, different places where a lot of the vets are just really, they're still making a living, but they're just giving so much more back to society because they see the big difference. Now, maybe that changes when they're more like our society, where they don't have dogs running all over the street, so it's not quite as obvious. So therefore, okay, I want to make a little bit more money, and I don't know, I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that we've made a tremendous difference in the areas we've worked in, and I feel really good about that.
Other places almost they think globally, they act locally, they've embraced that concept, and they understand that together we can all make a difference. Is that something that started with you locally right here, and does your team pretty much pretty much have to have that same passion so they too can almost recruit other people to understand and change legislation and educate folks?
Yeah, well, I think that's the key, and there's no question that that's what we take to the places we go, and we take turns. Different people travel with me all the time from here, so I really want my vets and my technicians exposed to those other things to see what it's like out there in the real world. Not that our problems are not that we don't have problems here, we do. The biggest single problem here in the States at this point is less of overpopulation and more due to what I call economic euthanasia. So the average American has a hard time coming up with much more than $500 at a time for any kind of emergency. Maybe you have a flat tire or something, you need a new tire, but okay, let's say your dog gets out and gets hit by a car, and the local vet wants $10,000 or $6,000 for the surgery. How many single moms, or the working poor can afford that? Now, once again, the vet profession might say, well, they shouldn't have the dog. Well, yeah, that dog's really intimate to them. I deal with a lot of homeless people, and my God, that dog is like everything to that person, and that person is everything to that dog. They interact 24/7, like they're best friends, so what's wrong with them having that animal, And so, if your choice becomes you have to put $5,000 down, or we can euthanize your dog, and that's the big threat to animals right now, more so than being born in euthanasia in this country for overpopulation. It's economic euthanasia. And I guarantee you, millions of animals are put to sleep, throughout this country because people just can't afford to fix the problem. And we have an incredible high suicide rate. And I really believe because we have my class was the first class in '89 to have more females than males in CSU. Now it's like 90% females, or over 90% females. And females have brought a tremendous amount of compassion and caring into us men. I'm not saying much for our sex, but we've done a pretty poor job in the past. And the females have really brought tremendous compassion in the field. But then they go out and get jobs, and most of the facilities are owned by men. And they say you have to do this, this, and this, and they're like, well, I can fix this, but I have to euthanize it, and so they're just torn. They're compassionate, caring people that every day they have to do something. They see something they could fix, but then the people can't afford it, and the bosses won't let them do it, so therefore they euthanize it or send it out the door. That's got to be horribly draining on you, and we just don't do that here at Planned Parenthood. It doesn't happen.
It's interesting. You said early on that this was something that kind of grew, probably even beyond what you imagined it to do. So you have helped fund state-of-the-art facilities in Europe as well as Mexico. Are there any other future possibilities that you're looking at right now as far as goals for the company?
Well, it always comes back to money, And when I did the first clinic in Slovakia, we were doing chunks on a credit card, and pay it back into a little chunk more. It took us a couple of years to get it up and going. Mexico is a little bit faster. We have a couple of facilities we work in Mexico, but we have an international training center that cost me about $600,000, and we got about half of that donated, and the other half came off the top of my for-profit company. Now we're 100% nonprofit, so if we can beg, borrow, and steal and get more money, we'll do more. My next really big goal would probably be putting a facility, an international training facility in someplace like Montenegro, somewhere in kind of Eastern Europe, because there's just so many animals. And it's still close enough we could bring some people in from Asia and stuff. Because, we've trained something like 40-some veterinarians in the last few months in our training facility down in Mexico. We just have groups. We have groups of French vet students come over, maybe 10 or 12 at a time. And they stay. My goal is always the same. Build a facility, build it, and they'll come. And when they come, we don't charge them for staying there. All right, we don't charge them for training. So we have people waiting in line all the time from all over, and so they come in there. Now we picked a place outside of Cancun, and so Cancun's nice and you have beaches. So, it's really good for those people. And these aren't rich people. A lot of times they're students, but a lot of times, they're vets from some pretty poor countries, but they come in because they know they get a really good deal, and a lot of the people who donate money say, well, you should charge for it. Well, yeah, but if I charge for it, then I'm getting the wrong people. I'm not necessarily going to be able to train the people I really want to train that really have the compassion and the drive to make a difference, and they don't have a lot of extra money.
This is quite a facility you have here locally. Probably should have 3 or 4 doors on the front because it's 3 or 4 things going on here under the roof here. Based on your prior employment of that of a animal control officer, you've seen quite a bit. Why was it important for you to kind of tie in a rescue boutique so that adoption is a part of that puzzle as well?
Yeah, and that's a real simple one. Real early on, we realized that, okay, even I can't care more than you care. Let's put it that way. I came to the same conclusion coaching. I can't want it more than my kids want it. I've been coaching at North High School for 26 years of distance running. So when people come in with, say, a parvo dog, and maybe they've only had it for a few days, and we say it's going to be, X amount of dollars, and they don't really have that much, we'll come down a little bit, and then they still don't have it. And it's like, well, can you just put it to sleep? I mean, that's the owner saying, can you? And I said, well, we're not going to put something to sleep that we can fix, so therefore sign it over to us. So let's sign it over to us, and then we keep it. And most animals we adopt are actually animals that we get that way, or they're hit by cars that someone brings in and no one comes and claims, or they're hit by a car that comes in, and they may get quoted $5,000 somewhere else. Our most expensive bone surgery is $1,500. Now, that's still a lot of money for some people, and I understand that. But at some point, I also got to keep the doors open, so it's always trying to find that balance. My feeling is that if I know you generally care about your animal and it really means something to you, I'm going to get that animal back into your household, no matter what. If I got to pay extra, and lose extra, I don't care. But, if you have a cavalier attitude and you don't really care, then I would just soon take that animal, fix it, and send it to a better home. Now, that doesn't mean those people might not just go get another animal. They might. I have no control over that, But a lot of people don't, because it becomes a hassle, and it did cost them a little bit of money maybe, or, I don't know. You just never know. People can do some pretty bad things, and so many people really do think animals are very disposable, and they're just not.
Interesting. We have spoken a lot about the Planned Pethood International. One of the doors, obviously, here locally is the Planned Pethood Plus working vet clinic. Share with me just kind of an overview of everything that you're able to provide here for the locals as well.
Well, because of the TV show, our mission has kind of changed a little bit, and it's changed because our society's changed, in that Colorado is very expensive in terms of veterinary care. Now, there's some good vets out there doing some really low-income stuff, but to do low-income spay-neuter, there's a bunch of people doing that right now, and that's great. Having said that, there's not a bunch of people doing low-cost bone surgery, so that's kind of, so over the last 2 or 3 years in particular, our business has kind of changed in that we're doing fewer surgeries overall, but we're doing far more complicated surgery. I do heart surgeries and chest surgeries, for $600, $800, $1,200 max, and those are quoted at $10,000, So, we do stuff like that every day, all the time, Dr. Petrie's become incredible at doing TPLOs and those kind of things, type of bone surgeries. And in the end, the average in Colorado is probably $3,500, and her highest price is $1,500, and we're leaving $500 worth of implants in the animal, So it's not like you're making all this money, when it takes you guys take x-rays, you have all this equipment and stuff, but I feel like our ability to go to the next level in terms of really complicated surgeries that people absolutely would have to euthanize their animals if they didn't get. I think I'm really proud that we're really making a big difference there.
Making a big difference not only locally but across the globe. You guys are educating 300 plus doctors out there, educating the public, using any means possible, really, like you touched on earlier, even that of TV, on-demand TV. Touch on that a little bit and how that opportunity presented itself for you.
Well, Animal Planet had the first TV show, I think it was called Emergency Vets, here in Denver, Alameda East. And in the end, they went off the air, and other stations started picking up some shows on veterinary, and they did really well. So Animal Planet put out around the world, hey, we want to get back in the vet business. And there happened to be a production company, Double Act, over in England that saw a YouTube interview with me, a lecture I was doing in Australia. So I'd been traveling the globe for years before I ever got on TV. And they called me up one day and they go, hey, would you be interested in being on TV? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'm kind of controversial. I'm really stuck in my ways, and I really believe in certain things. I said, you may want to check out my Facebook page and give me a call back. And they called back literally 24 hours later. Said, we'll be there next week. And I said, okay, and the rest, as they say, is history. People ask me, well, why you're successful, in terms of being on the TV, and we're the most successful TV program that Animal Planet has had for the last few years, and we've been #1 since we came on, and our base keeps growing, and I really think it's simple. It's because we believe in something. We just live in such a phony world, and we've gotten away from real basic values. And I just feel like we are what we are. What you see is what you get. And we actually, we're not fake, and we believe in certain things, and we're going to hold to those beliefs. And I think people really respect that.
So really what you told them at the beginning, I'm somebody with some strong opinions.
Yeah,
you didn't realize that's exactly what America needs, what America wants to view out there, and people resonate that with someone who believes in something. And like you say, you're making a difference out there. earlier you said that you're not sure what the future holds as far as doing this for the animals, but you definitely know about your own organization, some of the goals that you have in the future. Share with us, does this continue to be rewarding for you as you see kind of evolve?
Well, I know for a fact. I mean, I've already had cancer twice, and my father lived to be 84. My mom's still kicking it. She's 82, I think, and she does water aerobics. I mean, so I don't know. I probably won't make it to 84, but it doesn't matter to me, I guess, in one sense. I'm at peace with the future, and my goal is to work to the day I die. I'm fortunate. I actually love what I do, and I get to travel a lot of times on other people's dimes, which is great. I get to see the world because I've always loved traveling. I'm a military brat. We moved around, so that's kind of in my blood. So I just see moving forward, and as long as I can keep giving some knowledge out, keep helping other groups, and maybe build a facility or two more to where they'll run long after I'm dead. The International Training Center in Mexico will be running 100 years after I'm gone. I'm sure of it, and that's makes me kind of proud. So.
Like you said, important to you is to leave something behind, and obviously that is what you're doing, not only with basically the Pethood International, but with your Pets Plus as well. Many doors out there. People are able to come in, and like you said, the two work hand in hand. Affordable as well as accessible is something that I think people can relate with, and they're probably very thankful that your organization exists. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. I would have you check out both of the websites there. They've got a Pethood International that explains the global outreach of what they're able to do, and realize that they say that it takes a village to raise a child. Same thing goes with the pet. They need plenty of help out there with a nonprofit. There's many things you can do. Together we can make a difference, and so if you check out the site there, you can see many ways to do that as well. But if you've got a pet, companion animal that you want to make sure they have the proper care for, come down and check out their local facility here as well. Many professionals with basically a common thread of just caring for your animal and reducing the suffering across the board, at the same time of reducing population, because that's global thinking that everyone can do their part here locally. Once again, that is Planned Pethood International. Since 2000, here in Denver, Colorado. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.